Hey folks, hello again. Yeah, I decided to do a new video today and yeah, just to go into some more detail and continue from where we left off in the last video. So, in our last video, I mentioned something to the extent that I did not like talking very much. Like, I'm not very comfortable talking. And I mean, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's not like I have nothing to say. It's just that the way I grew up, talking was not something that that was encouraged. On the contrary, rather than being encouraged, it was actually discouraged. Like, growing up as a child, growing up as a child, you would be expected to be quiet and to not talk, basically. So, and it it wasn't it wasn't anything like, hey, you be quiet. It was, if there's any, if there's a short way to describe it, you could basically call it abuse. And maybe some of you may not be expecting this to be that kind of video. You may not be expecting this to be that kind of talk. But yes, when I was growing up, if you interrupted someone talking, like an adult talking or an older person talking, you may get a slap out of the slap in the head. You may get a slap in the face. You may get a huge blow in the back, a punch. You may end up with your face swollen. You may end up with your mouth bleeding. So when I was growing up, these were the consequences of talking. Talking when somebody wants you to be quiet. So I grew up not talking very much. Now, this is only about talking. Or I should say, this isn't only about talking. What I just spoke about was talking, but there is much, much more. So, okay, like let's talk about memories, right? Because I'm talking about things that I remember from when I was growing up. Imagine your memories. I want you to think about the things that you remember when you were growing up. Like, let's say your first memory. What was your first memory? Or the first thing that you remember? The first vivid thing that comes to mind when you were young? Like, yes, your first memory. Like, to some people, they might remember going to a fair. They might remember going and seeing a show. They might be remember going out and being in the field. Oh, they might be remember playing with their siblings and that kind of stuff. Now, I warn you, if you are a very sensitive person, you may want to stop listening to this video now. Let me share with you what my first memory is. My first memory, in my first memory, I remember being at home with my parents, both my mom and dad. They're the only ones I remember being there. We were in a room. I was very small. I can remember crawling back and forth. But in my first memory, I remember crawling towards my mother. I was small. I remember crawling towards my mother. And what she did was to point me back to so that I could go towards my father. What I did next was turn and crawl to my father. When I got there was what I got were some huge slaps, huge hand slaps that were painful, which caused me to turn around and crawl back to my mother for help, I suppose. I guess to a place where it's not so painful. When I started crawling back to my mother, she pointed me back to my father. Yes, she pointed me back to him and told me go to him. So I turned and I went back to him. What do you think happened again? Huge hand slaps. That's what happened when I went back to him. This repeated a few times until I stopped going to anyone because I'm not getting help from anywhere. So I might as well I might as well not go anywhere. So this is my first vivid memory as a child. Now you may be here thinking, ah, where could that have happened? Ah, maybe somebody should have stopped this. Um, well, if you've seen my earliest videos, well, not quite my earliest videos, but I had stopped making videos for a while, and then I made a video in the Caribbean. So if you've seen this video, the videos that I've made in St. Lucia within the Caribbean, then you know in which country that happened. So yes, that was the first memory that I can remember. I mean, as time has been going on, I've been remembering more things. And, I mean, like as you know, I recently came out of the hospital, and I've been thinking, and I've been memories have just been flooding back in, and so I've been remembering a lot more stuff. And yes, before I would say yes, this was my very first memory that I just described. Um, I'm remembering other things that happened around that time, which makes me wonder whether it's my very first. But I would say it's my most vivid, and for as long as I can remember, before having like a flood of memories come back to me after recovering at the hospital. Yes, this is what I would have called my first memory. So I will continue to say that it's my first memory. So I mean, what's the point of this? What's the point of telling you all of this? Well, I guess I've told you two things so far about my first memory and about me not liking to talk, and um, me basically being silenced when I was a child. I mean, if I went out with my parents to anywhere, I mean, basically, I had to shut up, let them be the ones talking. I couldn't talk. I couldn't open my mouth and talk. I mean, it would be some brutal punishment to open your mouth and talk. That's how it was for me. Because you should be silent. I mean, this is how I got raised. So basically, if I don't talk, I was socialized not to talk. And like I said, even though like I may have overcame, well, I guess you don't know much about what I've overcome, but I have overcome quite a bit. And what I'm saying is, even though I may have overcame quite a bit in my life, social upbringing still has an impact. And as much as I may try, there's really not very much I can do about it. I mean, this is basically how it is for me because I can't do anything about it. I mean, I may go to classes, I may go to public speaking training, but the amount of time and effort it takes the average person, it will take me way longer because I have to overcome all of these barriers. I have to overcome quite a few barriers just to be able to just to get in the habit of speaking when I was basically raised to be silent. As a child, you can't be talking when adults are talking, and they're not gonna show you or tell you the proper way to interrupt. Like if you need to interrupt, eh, I mean the solution is just that you need to be quiet, don't talk, don't say anything. This was my experience. As unfortunate as it might be, this is what it was. So if you're wondering why I would do a video and like basically walk around, do everything, and say absolutely nothing, is because I'm actually being in my comfort zone. Yes, my comfort zone, just out of habit, enforced habit, if I should call it, is that I needed to be quiet. I need to be quiet. It's like nobody is interested in what I have to say. I mean, I'm not important enough to speak. What I have to say is not important enough. So, I mean, let the important people talk and I should be quiet. This is the way I was brought up, and That's the reason why I'm quiet. It's a shame, but unfortunately, that's what was done. That's the thing that was encouraged, and at this point, I can't do anything else about it. Yeah, right now I just have to deal with the fallout and the consequences. Excuse me. Sorry. Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what street this is. It might be the right one to turn back on. I'm not sure. I'm guessing it might be. I didn't see a street sign, which is unfortunate. Let me check my map. Yeah, give me a minute, guys. Let's see, what road am I on right now? Yeah, some streets do not have maps around here, and it makes it a challenge when you. Yeah, I'm just gonna take it here. I think this is gonna get me to where I need to be. Yeah. So, like I was saying, I kind of lost my train of thought because, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought because, I mean, there's no street sign, and yeah. But I think this is the correct road based on what I can tell. It looks like it's gonna take me in the right place. But yes, to further that, I mean, that kind of upbringing has an effect. And I mean, as you can tell with me not speaking much, and I'm sure that this is probably the case with many, many people from the island where I was born. Like, their parents basically silenced them and just prevented them from speaking. And like, they grew up with difficulty expressing themselves. Like, I'm, I can imagine that many people may have gone to school like after being brought up in a household where you're not allowed to speak. You go to school, you can't express yourself, or you're so used to receiving such brutal punishment that you just stand there gazing, or you just sit there gazing at nothing and nowhere. I mean, many people may have had that kind of experience. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is take that route over there because I think I know where I am right now. So yes, many people may go to school, and I mean, after being like inundated with the "be quiet" mantra, they may not be expressing themselves at school, and that will certainly affect their ability to learn. Like, if you're if you're at school and you don't understand anything and you don't understand something, and rather than asking for help, you just stay there and you're quiet, you're unlikely to learn. You're not likely to learn anything. You're more likely to just remain confused. And I mean, some people may just not bother. But I'm asking people, yeah, and well, not just asking, I'm telling people, yeah, this is not the correct way that to raise their kids. You should not silence your children and prevent them from speaking. It's not gonna have a good effect on them on, in the future. They're gonna have problems. They're gonna have lifelong problems because they can't express themselves properly. They never learned to develop self-expression. So you're creating a problem. You are certainly creating a problem for your family. You're creating a problem for this person in the future if you raise your child like that. And I mean, furthermore, like I said, this is simply abuse. So you're also doing something illegal. And while in some places, in some countries, it's not frowned about, it's actually seen as a normal part of life because everybody does it. Well, the truth is, like my family found out after people moved to larger countries like this one here where I am, and places like Canada and the US, that this is not the right way to raise children. And I'm sure right now there are people who are quite ashamed of the things that they did to their children. But I mean, once the stone is thrown, you can't call it back. It's been done. It's done, and it's done. You cannot undo what you did to you did to people years ago. So yeah, the damage has been done, and unfortunately, the pain and the wounds are there, and people there are many people who might hate you for it, and there are many relationships that are gonna be damaged, severely damaged, just when something comes up and somebody remembers something that you did to them when they were a child. So yeah, you shouldn't raise your children like this. You shouldn't do this to your children. I mean, there's a lot more I can say, but I mean, like I said, I overcame quite a few barriers. Even though I don't like to speak, I don't express myself much. I have difficulty expressing myself. But I went to school, I learned I did quite well it has not taken away those barriers though, because as is quite evident, I'm making videos and I'm seeing nothing. So that that it's in itself should tell you something. And I mean, I'm sure you could just listen to the way that I'm speaking. I'm I'm not the most eloquent speaker. If you think I am, if I sound eloquent, just imagine, just imagine if I grew up in an environment where when I was actually encouraged to speak, how eloquent I would be. Encouraged to speak, encouraged to express myself. I mean, it was brutal. It was very brutal, and I mean, I don't want to go into it. It's sad going into detail, but I mean, I've told you some of the things that's happened, but still, they're very painful memories, and it's difficult to actually talk about it sometimes. So I'll try not to give too much detail. It's not easy. It's not easy to deal with. Yeah, I should start planning these videos a little bit more, like not necessarily creating a script. I don't want to create a script. What I think I will do is probably create a list of topics so that, when I run out of things to say on one topic, I could start talking about another. That's probably gonna be the best thing to do because sometimes I feel like I run out of things to say, even though there's quite a bit. There are many interesting subjects that can be helpful to many people and stuff, but I think this discussion about expression is an important first. It's an important first topic to bring up. And I don't know if there's anyone out there who's suffering from this as well. I mean, if you are, you may need to try to get some help. At this point, I'm not in a position to get the help that I need. I mean, I guess I'm using this video to talk, so to a certain extent, we might be able to call this talk therapy. I have attended therapy in the past, and I mean, I think probably because of the type of therapy it was, this was just glossed over like it was nothing, and the therapist basically ignored it as opposed to acknowledging. And I mean, if you do not have the experience to deal with something like that, I think she could have probably referred me to somebody else. But she decided to focus on other subjects, and maybe maybe it's just because of the type of therapy she is. I don't know. But let's just say maybe because of the state of mind that I was in, I was freely speaking, and I may not have I may not have appeared to have a problem expressing myself, and maybe she didn't notice. I've actually been to a psychologist. Yes, I've actually seen a psychologist, and I received a diagnosis like of a problem that I have. I mean, we can talk about it a little bit more when we get higher up. But yes, I actually did receive a diagnosis. Yeah, I mean, based on my conversation with that psychologist, she basically says I am suffering with generalized anxiety disorder. And she stated that from my discussion, from my description, it appears that this has been a lifelong condition. At one point, I was on medication for it, but right now I'm not. I mean, the issue that I was going through at the time that brought me to the psychologist and therapist, well, let's say it was mostly managed, or it's been managed to the point where I no longer need medication. So I've been more or less stable so far. I mean, I'd say more or less stable until, I mean, since I had this brain bleed, and I mean, right now I've been going through all sorts of emotional roller coasters, remembering things, and with headaches and flashbacks. And people are gonna say that, hey, you need to go back on your medication. You need to you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to get help and stuff. But I mean I considered it and I thought about it a little bit and I realized something. I mean, lately I've been talking about common sense, right? I've been talking about a lot of things that seem to not make any sense. So some things, sometimes people just seem to refuse to use their common sense. So here's the thing. If if I had a brain bleed, that would qualify as a brain injury, wouldn't it? Or doesn't it? Isn't a brain bleed a brain injury? Okay, so what does the brain control? Like, you think, okay, it controls your physical movements. Like, if there is a problem, you might not be able to move something. You might not you might not have the dexterity. You might be stiff, or you might have some nerve problems if you have brain damage. But doesn't the brain also control your emotions? So if you have a brain bleed, which is actually some form of brain damage that you need to recover from, is it likely, is there any possibility that this may also be affecting or having an impact on your emotional stability? Is it, I mean, think about it. Is there just, is it, could there just be a minute chance that that might be the case? Or is it just out of the realm, not within the realm of possibilities, that a person with a brain bleed, with a brain injury, would that this would probably have an impact on their emotional stability, and they would need to recover from it. I mean, is it possible that all that needs to be done is to wait for the treatment of that brain injury to take hold, and perhaps the issue with the emotional stability will settle itself down as well? I mean, there's no guarantee of that. I mean, there may be a very, very good possibility that so only parts of the issue were solved, and person may need to go on treatment for on further treatment, but could be that all the everything, like person feeling sad, the person being unemotional, the person being extremely depressed is all part of the effects of the brain injury, and maybe when it heals, this person is gonna come back to a semblance of stability. I mean, could is could that be possible? And I mean, the reason why I asked that is because I mean, somehow people around me who are quite aware of all of the circumstances of everything that I've been through, like within the last few months, in the last 2 months or so, like brain injury and everything, they seem to be acting like, oh, there is no possibility that this might have some impact on you emotionally. There's no, like, yeah, you need to go on medication. You need to go see somebody. You need to go do this. You need to go do that. Maybe, just maybe, treating the injury, the initial injury would make sense, and letting the treatment take hold and until you get better. Maybe that's all that's needed. Apparently, I don't know. To me, this seems like common sense, but I mean, common sense doesn't exist everywhere. So, I mean, sometimes you just can't help some people. So, yes, that's just my spiel, my thoughts on some of my past. I will be coming up with some other topics. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, right now I'm trying to get as much rest as I can, and it may take some time for me to respond to your messages, but I'll do my best. I mean, this is a very difficult time for me at the moment. I am dealing with several major issues in multiple different avenues, including my physical health. So I hope you understand. It might take some time. And it's funny, right? There were times, even at school, even at school, teachers, educators, right? Whom are supposed to help you, You would hope they'd have a little bit of sense, but if the child, yes, the child, the school child, who isn't in the habit of speaking very much, decides at one point to stand and talk just like everybody else in the class does. Yes, I was in a class where people would stand and be very disruptive. I don't think I was ever disruptive, but people would not like wait. People would raise their hand, and people might just blurt out something. I mean, it was kind of a very relaxed kind of class. But there was one day that I tried to express myself in the class, and the teacher herself basically shut me down. I was asked in no uncertain terms in the women's class whether I was drunk. I had not been drinking in the school. I had not been drinking in class. But for a teacher to stop you and ask you if you're drunk because you express yourself and ask a question or suggest something, that's quite insulting. And further reinforces a background of that background and that aspect of that can't seem to figure out the word right now. But it basically discourages that person from expressing themselves. It reinforces the idea that you shouldn't be expressing yourself. This actually happens in schools. And I mean, in this situation, as in many other situations, not necessarily the same, not necessarily on the same subject, but I really believe that there are people employed in certain areas that should not be there. They really should not be there. They're doing a disservice. They're actually causing damage to the people whom they are supposed to be serving because they're not suited to the positions that they were hired into, and many people know it. I'm telling you, many people know that they should not be there, but they're allowed to be there for one reason or another. They're kept there, and they keep on doing damage. I mean, it's frustrating and stuff. I mean, there's this 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 is the same. This is how it is in just about every profession that I can think of. And there are some where I mean, maybe it's almost benign or close to being benign. Some, yes, there are others where people lose their lives because of it. Because there is a person or people in a position that they should not be in. I mean, just because of my background and history, I can tell you that, yes, at one point I was a law enforcement officer. I was in that field for 8 years. So it means that I'm a very experienced person. I mean, not the most. I mean, there are people with 20 and 30, but someone with 8 years of experience has a lot of experience. A 5 year person, you can say this person is pretty close to being an expert. So 8 years is very experienced. You can almost call this person a veteran. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't know, I haven't had very much experience with law enforcement in this country, but I can tell you there are other countries in which there are people working in that field that just should not be there, but they're kept there. And it creates a lot of it creates lots of problems. I don't know, maybe there's better management here. I think some people seem to think so. Maybe because the history of this country goes back so far. Like, this country here has thousands of years of history, and perhaps the people have developed enough maturity so that they can behave properly. They know how to manage better. But as with everything, there are places where things fall through the cracks, and in these areas, you can expect to have problems. I mean, what can you say about that? What can you do about that? I guess you can report. in places where problems are entrenched, where there are very entrenched problems, reporting will not make a difference. Actually, reporting will make you more of a victim than it will help you in areas where there are entrenched problems. So there are places where I advise, hey, rather than report an issue that you see, sometimes it's better to just go straight to the legal route. Whether that be reporting to the police or finding a lawyer and taking legal action against an organization. But let me tell you what, even doing that, you may not necessarily be successful, but that may actually be your best chance. Because there are many places where certain problems are entrenched and people do not want to change. People do quite a bit of people do quite a bit of acrobatics in order to avoid punishment for what they have done, and many times they just try to sweep things under the rug. I can say legal action is probably your best chance. Other times, when all else fails, your best option may just be to walk away. Just leave it and walk away. I mean, I'm not going to advocate violence here. To some people, that may be an option. However, if you do choose that path, you can expect to spend a long time sitting in a cell contemplating your actions, or maybe even losing your life, even being deleted. So yeah, I will not advocate violence. Yeah, if it comes to that if it comes to that point, you're better off just walking away. Does not necessarily mean that you will be left alone. But yes, it's your best chance. You may need to move to another part of the country where you are. You may need to move to a completely different country, to a different country completely. I don't know. I will go over this video, and I mean, if you have any questions about what I'm speaking about, feel free. Like I said, I'm open to discussion, and it may just give me the impetus to create another video where I actually expound on it and explain what I'm talking about. I mean, there are times when topics come to mind, and because, as I said, I'm dealing with quite a few things. And as I said, with a brain injury, sometimes I might just switch to a certain topic. I might just switch to a certain topic without even realizing that, hey, I haven't given you very much background. So please, if you have questions, ask. I will do my best to answer them. I will try to continue posting some more videos because I like posting videos. Somehow I feel more comfortable talking, and hey, if the feeling is there and if I am able to do it, I'll do it. But anyway, I think that's gonna be it for now. I think that's gonna be it for now. I'm going to call it a day. Let's call it a video. Everyone who's watching, thank you. Thanks for your support. Feel free to share this video. It may help someone. It may give some perspective into things. I don't know, it may just help you feel like you're not so alone. So I hope you enjoyed this video and see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.